spent over a decade paying my family's bills, mortgage, utilities, emergency repairs, even my siblings' college tuition. Not once did I complain. I thought that's what love looked like. I thought being the reliable one meant I was doing the right thing. But everything changed the night I drove 3 hours back to my childhood home for a family dinner. That's when they told me, without hesitation, without remorse, that they had finalized their will. Every asset, every property, every dime was going to my brother and sister. The reason? You're successful. You don't need it. That night I realized I wasn't their son. I was their ATM. What followed was betrayal, sabotage, threats, and finally, freedom. I cut them off. I exposed their lies. And I rebuilt my life from scratch. Not everyone supported me. Some called me selfish. Some said family is family no matter what. But if you've ever been used, guilt-tripped, or emotionally blackmailed by the people who were supposed to love you the most, then you already know. Sometimes walking away from your family is the bravest thing you'll ever do. This is my story. And it might just be yours too. Before we dive into today's story, I just want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Whether you're a returning listener or this is your first time on the channel, your presence means everything. These stories aren't just about drama or shock value. They're about real people, real emotions, and sometimes real pain. And the fact that you choose to spend your time here listening, reflecting, and supporting, well, that says a lot about you. This isn't just a story, it's a journey. One about setting boundaries, breaking free from toxic expectations, and finding peace on the other side of pain. If you've ever felt taken for granted by your own family, if you've ever questioned whether loving someone meant losing yourself, then this one might hit closer to home than you expect. So, grab a cup of coffee or get comfortable, because this isn't just about what happened to me. It's about what so many of us are afraid to say out loud. Let's start from the beginning. I had spent 40 years of my life never imagining that one evening meal could completely unravel my sense of belonging. The soft hum of a jazz playlist, the cozy lighting from the overhead pendants, and the scent of rosemary chicken filled the air. It all looked like an invitation to reconnect. But it was a setup, one I never saw coming. 2 weeks earlier, I got a call from my mother. "Ethan, it's been too long since we've had you over. Come for dinner." "Sunday night," she said, her voice syrupy, too sweet to be real. I hesitated. Since my early 30s, I had kept my distance. My parents' affection always came with strings. They reached out only when it served their purpose. But a small part of me still hoped things could be different. Maybe, just maybe, they missed me for real. So I flew in from Austin to my hometown in Boise. Left my work behind, closed my laptop, and gave them the benefit of the doubt. I shouldn't have. The moment I sat at the table, something in the air shifted. My younger brother Tyler leaned back in his seat like he owned the place. My sister Chloe glanced at me from across the table with that smug grin I remembered from childhood. "To avoid surprises," Tyler began casually, "Mom and Dad want to share something up front." I looked up from my plate. "Okay." My mother folded her hands. "We've updated our estate plans. The house here in Boise, the lake property in Coeur d'Alene, all of it will go to Tyler and Chloe." Her words landed like a punch to the chest. I turned to my father, silently pleading for him to speak up, to say this wasn't real. But he just sipped his Merlot and looked away. "Why?" I asked quietly, my voice steady but my chest was burning. "Because you're doing well, Ethan," Chloe chimed in. "You have your business, your own place, you don't need help." Tyler added, "We're still finding our footing. It's about support, man." "Support?" I scoffed. "You've been finding your footing for 15 years. Chloe, you haven't kept a job longer than a year. Tyler, you're 34 and still on your 3rd degree." I pushed my plate away. The chicken now tasted bitter. "You're rewarding failure and punishing independence." "Got it." My mother crossed her arms. "Don't be dramatic." "No," I said, standing up, heart thudding. "I came here thinking I still had a place in this family. But I see now, I was just invited to be informed, not included." I didn't slam the door as I left. I didn't raise my voice. I just walked out into the cold Idaho night, breathing in the silence. That was the last family dinner I ever attended. "Ethan, there's no need to overreact. Your father and I have thought this through," my mother said, her voice firm, almost rehearsed. "You don't need these assets. But Tyler and Chloe need a foundation. Something solid to build their lives on." I let out a dry laugh. "A foundation? Is that what we're calling it now?" My gaze swept across the room, landing on the faces of people who once called me family. What about the money I gave you to pay off your second mortgage? Or when I covered the HVAC replacement last winter? Or the $40,000 I spent renovating the Coeur d'Alene cabin? The one you all now plan to give away like a gift basket. Chloe let out a small laugh, her smirk as smug as ever. Oh, so now you're tallying receipts? That's a little petty, don't you think? You've done well, Ethan. Don't be so stingy. I stared at her in disbelief. Stingy? Oh, Chloe. This is called being exploited. My mother's hand slammed against the table, rattling the silverware. Enough. Stop acting like some kind of victim, Ethan. You always make it about money. I felt something crack inside me. Not loudly, not suddenly. Just a quiet, internal shift. We didn't do this out of spite, my father mumbled without making eye contact. We did this because we love all of our children. That word, love, landed like ice water in my chest. Tyler leaned back in his chair with that fake sympathy he'd perfected over the years. You're acting like someone just took your favorite toy. Come on, Ethan. We're all adults. Time to accept reality. But their words didn't spark rage anymore. They brought clarity. I wasn't their son. I was their safety net, their investor, their walking emergency fund. The one who never said no, who bailed them out and never kept score. Till now. I placed my hands calmly on the edge of the table, letting the tension melt into something colder. I see it now, I said quietly. You never wanted me here. Not really. You wanted what I brought. The checks. The renovations. The convenience. I met each of their eyes one by one. But you've made one thing perfectly clear tonight. I'm not family. I'm a bank account with a name. Chloe's smirk faded. My father looked down at his wine. And Tyler? He said nothing. I stood slowly, pushing my chair back with a scrape that echoed louder than anything else in the room. I laughed, but not out of humor. It was the sound of release. Don't worry, I said, voice calm and final. You won't have to worry about my money anymore. And with that I walked out. And what about everything I gave up for you? I said, bitterness creeping into my voice. Does that mean nothing? My mother crossed her arms, her expression cutting like glass. Ethan, all you ever talk about is money. It's never enough for you, is it? I blinked, the accusation landing hard. Never enough? I repeated quietly. For the last 6 years I've been paying the mortgage on this house. I was the only one who stepped in when you were about to lose it. And when you said we should keep the lake cabin in Coeur d'Alene for family legacy, I funded the entire renovation. I looked around the room. The reclaimed wood floors. The new windows. The central heat I'd installed just last fall. All of it paid for by me. Yet here I stood being told I didn't belong. And now, I continued, you're handing it all to Tyler and Chloe, like I never existed. Chloe gave a lazy shrug, barely meeting my eyes. No one forced you to do any of that, Ethan. You just like being the hero. Her words hit me like a slap. My jaw clenched. You're right, I said, forcing calm. No one forced me. I did it because I thought that's what family did. I thought love meant showing up when it mattered. I guess I was the only one who believed that. Tyler chuckled. You're being dramatic. You sound like a kid who dropped his ice cream. My hands curled into fists under the table. A toy? You think I'm mad over a toy? I felt the blood rush to my face. I've spent close to $500,000 keeping this family afloat. I passed on trips. I bought a smaller house than I could afford. I skipped investments that could have set me up for life. Why? So you all wouldn't have to feel the pressure. I paused, letting the silence hang. And now, because I ask for a little fairness, I'm suddenly selfish? My mother sighed, shaking her head like I was some disappointment she just couldn't fix. Family is about love, Ethan. Not money. I laughed, but there was no warmth in it. Really? Then why is it only love when it comes from me? Why am I the only one who's supposed to give, to sacrifice, to bend? No one said a word. Not Tyler. Not Chloe. Not even the woman who used to call me every time the water heater broke or the taxes came due. They didn't look guilty. Just bothered. Annoyed I had the audacity to speak up. I felt the cold settle in my chest. A familiar kind of ache. The one you get when you finally accept that nothing will change. I stood. The chair scraped across the hardwood with a loud screech. I've heard enough, I said, voice sharp. My mother blinked. What did you just say? I looked her straight in the eye. I'm done. I don't owe any of you a damn thing anymore. And I meant it. For the first time in my life, I meant it. Tyler let out a nervous laugh, but there was no confidence behind it. What? You're just gonna cut off the family like that? I didn't blink. Yes. My voice was steady, too steady. And the look in my eyes must have told him I meant it because he finally stopped grinning. You'll understand what that really means soon enough, I said, turning on my heel. I didn't wait for any of their reactions. My mother's voice cut through the air behind me, high and brittle. Ethan, what the hell are you doing? Family is supposed to stick together. You don't just walk away over a little disagreement. I paused at the door, one hand on the knob. I turned just slightly, enough for her to see the cold smirk tugging at the corner of my mouth. A little disagreement? I echoed, my eyes locking with hers. This isn't some argument about politics over dinner. This is betrayal. Her mouth opened, but I didn't give her a chance to reply. I walked out. Her final words came sharp, full of fury and desperation. If you walk out that door, don't ever think about coming back. I didn't stop. I didn't need to come back. I had everything I needed to know. The drive home to Boise felt heavier than the trip out. The city lights blurred outside the windshield, smeared like brushstrokes across a canvas. My chest tightened with every mile, my thoughts tangled in the memory of Chloe's smug face, Tyler's deflection, and my parents' silence. I used to think that house was home, that they were my people. But now, it was just a shell, an echo of a lie I'd spent too long believing. When I got back to my apartment, I dropped my overnight bag on the floor and walked straight to the kitchen. Poured a glass of bourbon, sank into the couch and stared at nothing. I didn't feel rage, just tired. I opened my banking app out of habit. There it was, $2,100. That's what I had been paying them every single month. $1,500 on the mortgage. $600 on utilities, electric, water, Wi-Fi, maintenance bills, surprise roof leaks, HVAC repairs, and on top of that Tyler's tuition. Holiday gifts my mother picked but I paid for. Family trips I had funded from start to finish. My chest burned with betrayal. I tapped cancel recurring payment. The screen blinked. Successfully canceled. I stared at those words. And for the first time in years I felt something like peace. It was as if I had just broken free from chains I didn't even realize I'd been dragging. And I knew, this wasn't the end. It was the beginning. They weren't going to let this go quietly. The first call came the next morning, my mother's number lighting up my phone screen. I let it ring. Then came the second, the third, the fourth. By the fifth, I silenced my phone and placed it face down on the counter. I made myself a cup of black coffee, sat at the kitchen table and opened my voicemail. Mom, Ethan, I can't believe you did this. Do you have any idea how hard it is to manage this house right now? Mom, don't be selfish. Families are supposed to help each other. Mom, call me back, please. Don't do this. I set my mug down and closed my eyes for a moment. I figured the news had reached her. The canceled payments. The lifeline, gone. A few minutes later, the phone buzzed again. This time it was my father. I stared at the screen, jaw tight. There was a time when I would have picked up immediately, hoping naively that he'd be the voice of reason. But I knew better now. He wasn't calling to defend me. I let it go to voicemail. Later I hit play. Dad, Ethan, you need to reconsider. Your mother's very upset. This isn't how we deal with things. You can't just walk away over a misunderstanding. We're family. Family. I let out a hollow laugh, sharp and bitter. If I was really family, why had no one ever stood by me? That afternoon Chloe called. I didn't answer. Seconds later her texts started flooding in. Chloe, wow. Absolutely pathetic, Ethan. Chloe, you're so petty and selfish. Do you actually think you're better than us? Chloe, if you didn't want to help, you should have just said so instead of playing hero. Chloe, you destroyed this family. Congratulations. I laughed again, dry, joyless. Did they really believe I was the problem? Then Tyler called. And this time I picked up. Me, what? Tyler, what the hell do you think you're doing? Me, taking back what's mine. Tyler, you're disgusting. You cut off support for mom and dad just because you didn't get your precious inheritance? You're nothing but a greedy leech. Me, this isn't about money, Tyler. It's about respect, something I never got from any of you. Tyler, You're a snake, Ethan. You think you can walk away without consequences? Just wait. He hung up. A cold shiver ran down my spine. They weren't finished. I stared at my phone. Then slowly scrolled through my contact list. Each name, Mom, Dad, Chloe, Tyler, glowed faintly on the screen. The same people who had leaned on me for years. Who expected me to carry their burdens without complaint. And the moment I stopped, they didn't apologize. They didn't reflect. They just lashed out. Bigger. Threats. That was all they had to offer. I stared at the phone for a long moment. Then one by one I pressed block number. With each click, a name vanished, like clearing ghosts off my back. And for the first time in years, I exhaled. Peace. I set my phone down, took a sip from the glass of bourbon on my desk and leaned back in my chair. The city lights shimmered outside my apartment window, but inside, everything felt still. Calm. I smiled, a quiet, tired but genuine smile. I was free. 3 weeks passed in blissful silence. No more voicemails dripping with guilt. No more passive-aggressive texts. No surprise bills forwarded to me like I was still part of the household accounting department. I focused on my firm, got back to the gym and reconnected with old friends. For the first time since my 20s I had space to breathe. But deep down I knew better. They weren't finished. And I was right. Friday afternoon, mid-presentation prep, my phone buzzed hard on the table. Unknown number. I opened it. Mom, Ethan. The family is having a meeting. 7 p.m. The old house. This isn't optional. It's your responsibility. I closed my eyes. The audacity. This wasn't reconciliation. It was a trap. I could have ignored it. I should have. But some stubborn, stupid part of me still wanted to hear them out. Still wanted to believe they might change. I typed one word. Fine. At 6:58 I pulled into the same driveway I'd paid off 5 years earlier. Tyler's BMW gleamed in the driveway. Chloe's pink Mini sat beside it like a candy-colored warning sign. Before I could knock, my mother flung the door open. Her smile was so fake it nearly cracked. Ethan, she said too sweetly. You finally came home. I stepped inside. The house felt colder than I remembered. Dad was already seated, looking far too serious. Tyler and Chloe sprawled on the couch, smugness dripping from their expressions. Something was off. I pulled out a chair slowly, sat, crossed my legs. All right, I said. Let's skip the formalities. What is this? My father cleared his throat. We need to resolve this tension. I laughed, dry and unimpressed. Tension? You mean the fact that I stopped bankrolling everyone? My mother sighed, her voice sickly smooth. Let's not start like this, Ethan. We just want to talk. Ethan, you overreacted, my mother said, her tone patronizing. Your father and I only ever wanted what was best for you. Tyler scoffed, arms folded like a child caught lying. Did you even think before cutting us off like that? Do you not see how childish and selfish that was? My jaw tightened. Childish? Selfish. I said, my voice low and steady but razor sharp. I've kept this family financially alive for over a decade. If anyone here is selfish, it's the people sitting in this room. Chloe crossed her arms, her voice deceptively soft but dripping venom. You're just playing the victim. Let's be honest, you're bitter because Mom and Dad didn't leave you any inheritance, right? A cold, slow fury burned in my chest. I rose to my feet, letting my gaze settle on each of them. My parents, my entitled siblings. The people who'd taken without hesitation and blamed without remorse. I came here thinking maybe, just maybe, you realized how wrong you were, I said, laughing once bitterly. But no. You're still the same leech as you've always been. Selfish. Ungrateful. My mother shot up, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. If you walk out that door, Ethan, don't expect to be welcomed back. I paused at the doorway, my hand gripping the knob. I turned, locking eyes with her, voice cold as the wind outside. I never felt welcome here in the first place. Then I left. I drove home with my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't know what stunt they'd pull next, but I knew they wouldn't let it end there. I was right. The moment I got back to my apartment building, I stopped in my tracks. My front door was sealed shut, covered in hardened, grayish-white expanding foam. It oozed from the seams, crusted like dried glue, blocking any chance of getting inside. Sabotage. I didn't need to guess who was behind it. My hand tightened around my phone as fury surged through me. I opened my security camera app, fingers trembling, and scrubbed through the footage. There he was. Gray hoodie. Baseball cap pulled low. Smug smirk. Holding a can of foam, Tyler sprayed it along my door like he was tagging a wall with graffiti. He even laughed, laughing like this was a joke. Like it meant nothing. My fists clenched at my sides. This wasn't just petty, it was criminal. They thought they could scare me, push me, manipulate me back into their control. They were dead wrong. Every motion in the video was an insult. Tyler did this because he thought I wouldn't fight back. He was wrong. I calmly saved the video, took sharp screenshots of his smug face, and dialed the Boise Police Department. 30 minutes later, a young officer knocked on my apartment door. His expression was a mix of professional courtesy and mild disbelief. I walked him through everything, showing the footage and explaining the backstory in clear, direct terms. "Would you like to file a formal complaint?" he asked, flipping open a small notepad. His tone was neutral, but there was a flicker of hope in his eyes, like he thought I might let it slide. I gave a cold chuckle. "I didn't invite you here for conversation." He nodded and began writing. "Tyler, right? That's your brother." I met his eyes without hesitation. "Not anymore." The next morning my phone buzzed with a familiar name. That. "Dad, Ethan's son. Does this really have to go this far?" "Me, are you calling to talk or to ask me to drop the charges?" "Dad, it's not like that. You know Tyler was just upset. He didn't mean any harm." Me, scoffing, "He sealed my door shut, Dad. What if I'd had a work emergency this morning? What if someone had been trapped inside?" There was a long pause. Me, "He wanted to scare me. So now he's going to learn what happens when you poke the wrong person." "Dad, do you really want to push this that far?" Me, "I'm not pushing anything. Tyler did this to himself. If he didn't want consequences, he shouldn't have acted like an idiot." "Dad, what do you want to make this go away?" Me, $33,000. "Dad, what?" Me, "That covers repairs, legal fees if this escalates, and emotional damages. Considering everything, I'd say that's generous." "Dad, that sounds like extortion." Me, calmly, "No, Dad. That's called consequences." "Dad, Tyler doesn't have that kind of money." Me, "Then maybe you and Mom can chip in, like you've been doing his whole life." There was a beat of silence, then the line went dead. 3 days later I opened my banking app. A wire transfer, $33,000. From my parents' joint account. No calls. No texts. Not a word from my mother. Tyler went silent. Even Chloe, who never missed a chance to twist the knife, didn't say a thing. And for once I didn't need them to. They thought sending the money would make me disappear. But what they didn't realize was this: I didn't need them anymore. I stood in front of my apartment door, newly repaired and freshly painted, my fingers tracing the smooth surface. The $33,000? That was just a number. What mattered was the fact that, for once, they had been forced to take responsibility. Let them hate me. Let them call me disloyal, a traitor. For the first time in my life, they didn't get to decide how I lived. I took a slow sip of bourbon, a smirk tugging at the corner of my mouth. They thought they could break me. But in the end, they were the ones who lost. I'd assumed that after wiring the money, they'd finally get the message. That they'd back off. But I gave them too much credit. Losing money was one thing. Losing control? That was unforgivable. When their guilt trips and silence didn't work, they tried something worse, shaming me through others. My phone started lighting up with a stream of texts and DMs from relatives I barely remembered. "Aunt Susan, Ethan, I'm so disappointed in you. Your parents gave you everything and this is how you repay them? Uncle Mark, don't let money make you heartless. Family is family. Cousin Rachel, how can you sleep at night knowing your parents might lose their home?" I stared at the messages, feeling a strange combination of amusement and disgust. I didn't need to guess where this was coming from. My mother. She couldn't win with reason, so she weaponized sympathy. She had rewritten the story completely. Poor aging parents abandoned by their cold, greedy son. A villainous narrative starring me, selfish Ethan who refused to help. But there was one massive flaw. It wasn't true. I had supported them for over a decade. Paid their mortgage. Covered every utility bill. Bankrolled Tyler's tuition and Chloe's impulsive career switches. and never asked for anything in return. They weren't abandoned. They were addicted to exploiting me, and I was done. I opened my laptop and logged into Facebook, something I rarely did. But today was different. I didn't care if they loved me. I just needed them to stop lying. I began typing, my fingers steady, every word calculated and clear. I tried to be a good son. I paid hundreds of thousands over the years to support my parents. Their mortgage, their bills, even my siblings' education and expenses. My siblings' tuition. I never complained because I believed that family meant showing up, no matter what. But when my parents finalized their will, they left everything to Tyler and Chloe. When I asked why, their answer was simple. You already have a career. You don't need it. When I protested, they called me selfish. When I stopped paying their bills, they called me disloyal. Now they're spreading lies, saying I abandoned them. That they're on the verge of losing their home. That I'm some cold-hearted son who turned his back on the people who raised him. So here's the truth. They are not losing their home. What they're losing is the free financial lifeline they expected me to provide forever. I'm not writing this for sympathy. I'm writing it for anyone else out there who's ever been guilt-tripped by the people who were supposed to love them. You do not have to keep suffering. Setting boundaries is not betrayal. Refusing to be used does not make you a bad person. And sometimes, family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by respect and mutual care. I've walked away. And I have zero regrets. I hit post. Within an hour, the post exploded. Hundreds of shares, thousands of comments. Some were supportive. Been there. Stay strong. You don't owe them anything. Proud of you for speaking out. Toxic families are the hardest to walk away from. You did the right thing. Others were critical. Family is still family. Don't air your dirty laundry online. Wow. Attention seeker much. Shameful to talk about your own parents like this. I didn't care. I expected it. 3 hours later, my phone lit up. My mother's name flashed across the screen. I answered. Mom, Ethan, what the hell do you think you're doing? Me, telling the truth. Mom, you're destroying this family's reputation. Me, no, Mom. You did that when you turned me into your villain. Mom, you'll regret this. Me, no. You will. I hung up. And felt lighter than I had in years. They couldn't silence me anymore. For the first time, I had taken back control. 3 months later, I still hadn't looked back. No guilt trips. No late-night lectures. No emotional blackmail. I was finally living life on my terms. And while the silence was strange at first, losing a family, even a toxic one, does leave a void, there was one truth I held on to. Peace is louder than chaos. It left a strange void. But then I realized. It wasn't loss. It was freedom. I poured myself into my work, free from the constant pressure of unpaid debts masked as family obligations. For the first time in years, every dollar I earned was mine, and mine alone. I signed up for a photography class at a small studio downtown. Something I'd always wanted to do but never had the bandwidth for, emotionally or financially. I started traveling. Exploring the places that had lived in the background of my dreams, always out of reach while I was too busy funding someone else's lifestyle. 3 months later, I was sipping espresso by the Seine in Paris, watching boats drift lazily beneath stone bridges. 6 months later, I stood at the peak of Machu Picchu, the wind whipping through ancient ruins, and I felt something I hadn't felt in decades. Pride. Not in what I'd done for others, but in the life I was finally building for myself. No one relied on me anymore. And that freedom, it was worth more than any house, any vacation home, any inheritance they dangled over me. I didn't keep tabs on them, but word traveled. Old colleagues. Acquaintances. Boise isn't as big as it pretends to be. My mother had taken a job at a local diner. One of her former coworkers told me she didn't look like the woman she used to be. No polished nails, no designer purses, no entitled aura. My father, the man who sat silently while I was exploited for years, was now stacking drywall and hauling pallets at a construction supply store. No more morning tea times or midday naps. Tyler? Unemployed. His big laugh and cocky swagger gone the moment the bank account dried up. No one left to fund his endless parade of failed business ventures. Chloe? Still chasing social media stardom. But no one was sponsoring her lifestyle anymore. The fake smiles, the fake filters, none of it could hide the reality. No one was paying for the fantasy now. Me. I felt nothing but clarity. I had given them chances, and they turned each one into a transaction. A year after cutting ties, I met Alex. He entered my life like quiet sunlight, warm, unassuming. We met on a hiking trip with mutual friends. At first, I didn't think much of it. Another stranger. But then he listened. No expectations. No hidden motives. He didn't want what I could give. He just wanted me. Standing on my apartment balcony, Boise's skyline glowing in the December night, I realized something. I didn't lose a family. I escaped one. It was the greatest gift they ever gave me, walking away. Ethan's story isn't just about family betrayal. It's about the transformation of someone who once believed that endless sacrifice would eventually earn love and acceptance. The reality is, so many people stay stuck, used by the ones who should love them the most. But this story shows that setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's self-respect. Sometimes losing a toxic family isn't loss at all. It's a door opening to freedom, peace, and people who see your worth. Have you ever experienced something like Ethan's story? Or known someone who has? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to follow this channel for more real, raw, and powerful stories about family, healing, and starting over. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. I didn't share this for pity. I shared it because I know I'm not alone. I know there are people out there, maybe even you, who've bent over backward for people who never appreciated it. Who've spent years giving, sacrificing, hoping that love and respect would one day be returned. I've lived that. I gave everything I had, my time, my money, my peace, because I thought that's what a good son was supposed to do. But I learned something the hard way. Being loyal to people who only love what you give them isn't love. It's survival. And I don't want to just survive anymore. I want to live. So I ask you, what do you think? Did I do the right thing? Would you have walked away? Drop a comment below. Let me know if you've ever been in my shoes. Maybe your story will help someone else find the courage to stop being used. And if you're someone still stuck in that place, please take this as your sign. You're not selfish for choosing peace. You're not wrong for setting boundaries. And you are absolutely not ungrateful for wanting to be treated with respect. If this story hits something deep inside you, don't just scroll by. Let's talk. Let's build a space where people like us, people who've been taken for granted, can finally feel seen. And if you haven't already, follow this channel. There are more stories coming. Real ones. Raw ones. Ones that remind us that we're not alone even when it feels like it. Because healing starts with one thing. Finally speaking the truth. And today I did.